You've likely been raised to be courteous, to seek consent, to wait for clear signals, to ensure she's at ease. And though the motive behind this is admirable, the outcome often falls short. Because women don't give themselves to the man who waits for permission. They open up to the man who naturally evokes that closeness. She doesn't crave persuasion. She craves direction. She yearns for a man whose presence grounds her. Not one who pushes, pleads, or pressures, but one who simply is. That kind of presence doesn't ask. It draws her in with certainty, not force. And when you embody that energy, you'll never need to ask, because she'll offer herself freely, eagerly, completely. This isn't some trick. It's a shift in mindset. True intimacy isn't requested. It's awakened. The moment you ask, you hand away your strength. Not because desire is wrong, but because acting from a place of dependence makes her instinctively resist, even if part of her wants to say yes. Here's the secret no one teaches. You don't request closeness. You cultivate an atmosphere where her walls fall away on their own. Let's be clear. This isn't about control. It's about emotional attunement. It's about helping her feel so safe, so understood, so subtly claimed that her body responds before her voice ever does. You want to connect physically? Don't begin with touch. Begin with presence, with the charged silence between you. Because women rarely say yes in response to a question. They say yes when they feel it. Women say yes when something stirs deep inside them. And the man who understands this doesn't speak in terms of permission. He speaks in terms of invitation, one laced with a quiet, magnetic edge. He says things like, "I'm in no rush. I want to see if your vibe aligns with mine." Or, "I notice the way your eyes linger, even when you're trying to hide it." See the contrast. He's not pleading. He's creating suspense. He crafts a space where intimacy feels like it's already unfolding beneath the surface without a word spoken. And all that remains is for her to step into it willingly. This is the heart of the psychological shift. True desire isn't requested with words. It's communicated through presence. You don't push her into a decision. You lead her into one, her body, and emotions already made. So how does this play out in the real world? You hold eye contact just a breath longer than expected. You drop your voice, not to sound seductive, but to quiet the noise in her head. You touch her deliberately, one hand placed low on her back, not both. You lean away, not in, because the man who holds the power doesn't chase, he draws her in. Everything you do should silently say, "I'm not seeking permission, I'm tuning in for connection." If she feels emotionally secure, she'll gravitate toward you. If not, she won't. But either way, you didn't ask, you guided. And here's the key. When her no doesn't shake you, that's when her maybe starts to shift into fascination. Because now you're not the man who needs her to say yes. You're the one who knows she's free to choose, and that confidence is irresistible. You're the kind of man who effortlessly draws out a yes, not by asking for it, but by making it feel inevitable. That's the magic. She gives herself to you because it feels like her own decision. That's not some clever scheme. That's the art of grounded, calm seduction. And it's powerful. Here's the full truth. The secret lies in making her feel like she initiated it. You want her to crave you? Then stop trying to sell yourself. Instead, embody the truth every woman responds to deep down. She doesn't yield to pressure, she surrenders to permission. And the only man who unlocks that surrender is the one who never made it about himself. The one who made her believe it was her own desire leading the way. That's the real key. It's not about manipulation, it's about invitation. You don't step in because she granted you access. You move closer because the space between you has already been filled with silent affirmation. It's in the air, the anticipation, the pull, the unspoken yes. She wants to feel like her own longing took control, that she crossed the line, not you. Why? Because when it feels like her decision, there's no second guessing, no guilt, No resistance, just pure surrender, and in that surrender is where her most uninhibited self lives. Let's look at what most men do. They try to build rapport. They give compliments, they drop hints. Then they ask things like, "Can I kiss you?" or "Want to come over?" or "Do you like this?" And in doing so, they unintentionally pull her into analysis. Suddenly she's in her head, weighing options, calculating implications. But intimacy isn't born in the mind. It's sparked in the body, in the heart, in those moments when emotion overtakes reason, when she feels herself leaning in without understanding why, when attraction becomes movement, subtle, involuntary, undeniable. That's the difference between asking and awakening. The man who understands this doesn't chase approval. He doesn't seek confirmation. He simply creates an emotional current so compelling that she naturally follows it. And when she does, it feels like her choice, because it is. That's what real presence does. It draws her out. Not with words, but with energy. Not with pressure, but with calm certainty. You become the man who doesn't need to convince, because everything about your presence already answers the question. When your voice makes her lose track of time, when your silence unsettles her in a way she secretly welcomes, that's when you begin to understand real influence. The man who truly gets it doesn't apply pressure. He draws her in without ever reaching. He pays attention to how her posture shifts as he speaks. He catches the subtle hitch in her breath. He listens to her silence, not to fill it, but to meet it with steady presence. He doesn't blurt out, "I want you." Instead, he says something like, "You're most intriguing when you're holding something back." And suddenly she's spiraling inward. She's wondering, what did he notice that I didn't even show? She feels the imbalance shift, as if she's the one leaning forward now, because you rewrote the dynamic. You didn't just graze her skin, you touched her pride. You reached into her identity, past appearances, and revealed something even she wasn't aware was visible. That's not physical exposure, it's psychological intimacy. And that kind of vulnerability, that's what she secretly longs for, because it's rare, and anything rare, that's what gets remembered. When a woman feels like she made the move, even if it was barely noticeable, even if you guided it subtly, she holds on to that moment. It replays in her mind over and over, because it gives her a rare blend of sensations. She feels both powerful and swept away, grounded yet hungry for more. That intersection, where desire meets agency, is where real chemistry lives. So how do you deliver that experience? You slow your words down. You let your sentences trail off unfinished, like there's more you could say, but choose not to. You don't fill every silence. You create unanswered questions that echo in her thoughts. You let the tension build until the space between you hums with possibility. You don't say, "Come over." You casually mention, "I had planned to spend tonight solo," and let it linger. You don't say, "I want you." You murmur, "You're dangerously distracting." Each word becomes a breadcrumb, and she follows not because she's obligated, but because she's pulled by curiosity, by desire, by the need to find out what's next. That's why the most intimate moments are rarely born from direct requests. They bloom from emotional cues, from suggestion that dances just out of reach. When a woman is uncertain, she pauses. But when she's intrigued, she moves. The aim isn't to extract a yes, it's to spark a feeling so compelling she creates the yes herself. The real aim is to make her feel that not saying yes would be the moment she regrets, the opportunity she can't forget. That lingering tension is what leaves a mark. It's what keeps her coming back in her thoughts, craving more. You offered her the feeling of choice, the thrill of freedom, the illusion of being fully in control. And in return, she gave you everything, like it was the most natural, unforced decision she'd ever made. That's not manipulation, that's the height of psychological seduction. And the men who master this truth, they never need to ask. They simply shape the moment and let her walk across the threshold on her own. Here's the third key. When you lead with presence, she responds with surrender. There's a reason she ignored your compliment, a reason she deflected when you hinted at something more. It wasn't disinterest, it was uncertainty. You left her to lead, and she didn't feel safe stepping into that space alone. You need to understand something crucial. A woman only opens up when she feels you've already established the container, when you're holding the emotional frame without flinching. If she picks up on hesitation, overthinking, or insecurity, her body retreats. Because deep down she senses, this man desires me, but he doesn't know how to guide me. And if you can't lead her on an emotional level, she will never fully trust you physically. This is the blind spot for most men. Women aren't waiting for someone to grant them permission to let go. They're waiting for a man who knows what to do with that surrender once it's offered. A man who carries presence like a steady rhythm, who moves with purpose, who paces the energy between you like a conductor guiding music. He doesn't rely on her to make the first move. He creates such unmistakable clarity in the moment that her only choice is whether she wants to step into it, not because he demanded it, but because he made it safe to release control. And let's be clear, safety doesn't mean softness, it means certainty, confidence without tension, calm without hesitation. He's not internally asking, should I kiss her? He's tuned into the moment. He reads her energy, and when he feels the signal, he doesn't ask. He acts, gently, intentionally, with unwavering focus. And in her response, he sees everything he needs to know, because she doesn't need a question, she needs to feel that you already know. When you lead the moment, she's finally able to exhale. She doesn't have to think or measure or defend or perform, she simply gets to be. That's when her feminine energy floods in. That's when arousal slips in before thought. That's when she reaches for you, because your presence silently assured her, you're safe, I've got this. And here's the truth. Most women have never truly felt what it's like to be with a man who's rooted, steady, aware, completely unaffected by whether things go somewhere. They're used to men who move too fast, who seem confident until the moment things don't go their way. Then the facade cracks, and suddenly he's uncertain, eager to please, trying to win her over again. That's when the attraction fades. But the grounded man, the one who speaks with intention, who listens more than he talks, who moves with quiet confidence, he becomes the anchor to her storm. And that's what the feminine craves, because her energy is wild by nature. It wants to rise, to pour out, to erupt, but only when it feels the presence of something strong enough to contain it without fear. So if what you want is real intimacy, not just her body, but her openness, her essence, then slow down. Lead with calm. Let stillness do the talking. Let your gaze hold her longer than expected. Let your breath steady the space between you. Let your touch guide, not grab. She will notice. She will feel you, not just your presence, but your depth. And what happens next? She begins to soften. She starts leaning into you without knowing why. Her laughter becomes lighter. Her hands reach for you more often. She syncs with your rhythm, and when the moment unfolds, she doesn't hold back. She offers everything. Not because she felt pressured, but because she felt chosen, because for the first time, she didn't have to perform, she didn't have to lead, she didn't have to carry the moment. That is what women are silently aching for. It's not about pleasure, it's not about performance, it's about relief, a deep, exhaling surrender. And the only man who gives her that kind of relief is the one who leads, the one who doesn't ask, "Is this okay?" but instead holds the space with a steady presence that says, "This is here for you, when you're ready." And when she is, there's no hesitation, no retreat, no forgetting, because real intimacy isn't requested, it's created, and the man who creates it, he lives on in her memory, forever. Now you understand, she doesn't want to be walked through a checklist of consent. She wants to be moved into yes, not persuaded, not reasoned with. If you're becoming the man who brings presence instead of pressure, say it clearly. I don't ask, I attract. And if this message stirred something inside you, something you forgot you carried, then let it anchor you again. Like this. Stay tuned for more grounded, powerful, and emotionally aware insight into what it really means to be a man who leads.